Sometimes I think we gotta ask ourselves that question: do we want to stay on the shallow side of life, or move to the deep end of life, in which God becomes our only lifeguard?
Willing to be yourself in the sight of people, no matter what people think. I think that's what it's all about. Welcome back to another banger on my YouTube family out there. As y'all can see, we over here at 3M today, and we got a delivery, 22,000 pounds. Well, I'm sorry, we got a pickup. We came empty over here. Today I want to talk about the pros and cons of drayage. Stay tuned for today's video. Let's jump straight. You can see we out here today, and it's just another day out here in the office. Drayage has been fairly profitable. So as you guys can see, you know you need to ride with that word. Let's go out here, let's seal this up. Shout out to my guys over here at 3M. They do a pretty good job. You know, that's one of those good things about drayage, is when you have a nice, good container, no issues. When you have a nice working chassis, as you can see, I got a nice chassis right now. Nothing wrong with the tires or anything. And you get loaded quick, you in and out. This is about 22,000 pounds. Nothing major. Let's lock it up. Want to make sure the customer got their seal on their product. Okay. So here's one of the cons of containers. Trying to bang that in there. So you got to be strong for this type of work. And see me, I'm not really that physically strong. You know, I got a little muscle, but these containers be sitting on those trains, and sometimes it really be hard metal. Let's see if this door, I think we might be good. Let's see. All right, that one went. Okay, we good. And let's put this seal on here. You know, I had a day where literally I had to ride with the, we good, locked in there. I had to ride with one of the things like that, because it'd be so hard. Right now, all the mud flaps good. Tires looking good. The lights working. Another thing that be really messed up on a lot of these chassis and with containers is they don't be having all the lights working. See, and when you got to pass through DOT, they're gonna check all those things. So that's one of those things that you continuously deal with other drivers. All right, let's get it. We're about 3 hours away. Our ETA right now is about 4:23, as you can see. That prime driver is gonna be going in my spot. But I will have to say the first pro to drayage is getting home every day. You know, getting the opportunity to get home every day is a huge plus, especially considering me having a young wife and me being a young man. The second pro I would have to say is the pay scale. Because you get to get home, I would say I like the pay scale, the way the pay scale is operating. When I first started in trucking, you know, I ran drayage, and drayage have been a place that I made, you know, some substantial revenue by the Lord's mercies. The third pro I would have to say, remember all these are all subjective. The third pro I have to say is not having, and that goes to the second one a little bit, not having no trailer expense or any of that. It's a whole business market on having to rent a trailer out and pay for a trailer. I'm thankful that, you know, you always utilizing different containers, and, you know, which could be a con because you're always using different chassis. But that's one of those things that I think is pretty cool. Another pro that I'll have to say about drayage is the consistency of work. There's always some consistent work. You never really have to, let's make sure we stop here, beg for work in a larger sense. I mean, it's fairly consistent, and I'm very thankful about that. Not everybody wants to do drayage, not everybody does drayage, and so it kind of narrows down the list. Now let's get into some of the cons. You know, some of the cons, simply put, is the equipment. You know, the equipment, the chassis, dealing with a whole lot of other independent contractors and other people, they can leave the lights messed up because, you know, their main goal is the box. And that can cause so much detriment to the next driver. I mean, their whole goal is getting the box to that train. So if the chassis is not the best, they'll leave it to the next driver. And I have literally had to deal with that, you know, these past few weeks. A driver left a chassis with no lights. Sometimes they be having shortages. I think that's one of the cons, that at these rail yards, these guys don't really check this equipment. And I'm not perfect, but it's like you get sucked into this whirlpool of, my revenue is tied to these chassis, and a lot of these chassis be so bent and bogus, and there don't be enough maintenance people at the yard. So now you gotta have this wrestle. And so that's a big con in this industry. And I know a lot of drivers that have been doing it for a while can say that. You can go from having your day mapped out here to there, and next thing you know, a chassis, waiting in line, waiting to get a box put on, waiting to get the pins locked, knocked in place. All of those things are just cons. But I guess you can't find no gig in this industry where everything is 100% perfect, right? The name of the game is to have some plus and minus, debits and credits, negative and positives. I'm gonna check out here. I just need to drop this in the box. But that's the first con I would have to say. The second con that I'll have to say, if I will, is the traffic. The traffic and time frame, you know, at rail yards, or sometimes, you know, when you get in the box put on, all those things can really affect your 14-hour clock. The time. Because there's so many drivers and there's only a limited amount of equipment. Another thing I'll have to say is the apps. The apps, you know, don't always be up to date. Drivers don't report if equipment is bad, and then you go on the app and it say it's good, which gives it a green light, but really it's a red. You know, all those different things with the apps in the rail yards, and then the lack of communication, the lack of efficiency with it. Somebody choosing to update a piece of equipment properly, that can really be a hassle. That can really, really, really be a hassle. Another thing I'll have to say, as a con, is the way these containers can be loaded. Because they're a different type of metal or a different type of aluminum or hardware, sometimes they can be more heavy than a regular trailer and how it's loaded. And so you can feel that on your truck, which can cause low fuel consumption, low fuel miles per gallon. So, you know, just a few cons and pros. But I mean, overall, you know, we ran about 10,000 miles in January, about 9,200 miles in February. This month we set to run about 9,000 to 10,000 miles. I mean, we're getting home. Everything's cool. You know, I'm thankful. We sticking to the word out there. You know, this is what the industry is about. I haven't been on here for a while for all my YouTube family, but if you ever consider Drayage, you know, there's some pros and cons to it, and I know there's probably more pros and cons than I could think of, but for me, I like to lens things to the positive light. So it hasn't really been nothing that's so detrimental that I don't want to do it. It's been pretty cool. You know, it's been pretty cool. Depending on the partnership you in, you know, stick to those few rail yards and you get the job done. That's what it's about. You know, that's what it's about. Now we're gonna get on this road and we're gonna get to this rail yard. They got objects in the road, and I'll see you all over at the rail yard. Stay to see me on the yard. It's a little bumpy out here, but you know, just always remembering and really meditating and pondering on the goodness of God, you know, and salvation. It makes me think about a story. You know, I got a warning for not going through the weigh station in the bobtail about a week or two ago. And that warning was just a good symbolism and similitude of what it's like in this life. This life is like a warning for the life to come. And I just went through the weigh scale yesterday, and I had a little shortage in my lights. But you know what happened? The DOT officer had mercy on me. He had grace upon me. If you leave this planet without mercy and grace, which are the two mechanisms of salvation, you know, I pray that that before you go, you know, that you can get to experience that. Because this life, you know, in the goodness of God, imagine that we serve such a good God where you don't even got to know him or serve him, but yeah, he's still good to you every single day. Every day. You know, he left words and an inheritance and all these different things to point us back to himself. And how many times do we take that for granted with the bills and the shiny objects of this life? So it's just really good to meditate and ponder on the things. Just like, you know, it's pros and cons in trucking. It's pros and cons in this lifetime. One of those cons in this lifetime is sin. It says one sinner destroys much good. And so, you know, getting your sins washed away by the blood of Jesus Christ and understanding that we do serve a God who's very conscientious of everything we do, and we will give account. I already said it. Just like how those weigh stations, they make drivers give account, we serve a God that's going to make us give account. And we may get a warning, but we can't always get a warning for missing it and passing by and taking heed to what he has set in order in this lifetime for us to follow. And so, you know, I'm thankful I get to share a little clip of that as we drop this chassis and as we just went on a day. I wish I could have put on a head camera, but too many sheriffs out there and I don't want to be a lawbreaker, so I'm thankful that we made it. You know, for all of y'all that watch, that subscribe, that's rocking, hey, make sure y'all return for more comments and video suggestions, and by the grace of God, I'll see you on the next one. Peace. Find who you are, live in spirit, and find peace.
Our lives are meant to be legacies for somebody else, for generations to come, and we got to continue to walk after that and do things that are courageous.